Well, welcome back to Country Living with Wades. I'm Philip. Today I'm doing an evaluation of the Agri-Fab tow behind plug aerator. And I tell you what, it really works well, but there's a couple of problems with it that need to be taken care of. When I bought this, I was going to make two videos real quick. The first video was going to be the assembly, doing the assembly, following the assembly instructions, and the second video was going to be an evaluation. A couple of problems following the instructions a little bit, but those were easy to take care of. And then I started the evaluation, and I tell you, I was really impressed how well it was working. I got an 1.5 acres done out of 4 acres that I was going to do, and I had my first problem. Talking with their customer service, they were real nice, took care of the problem, sent me some new stuff immediately, but I still had to wait a week to get the new part. Then I finished the 3 acres, and thought I was going to finish the evaluation. Doing the evaluation video, I found a second problem. I took care of this problem in a better way. Now, I think from the box, it's pretty good. But the way I modified with it, the 2 modifications that I made, well, actually a third simple modification also, makes it something much, much better. Now I think I have a product that should last a long time with very, very little maintenance. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. It really keeps them going. Enjoy this video. This is the Agri-Fab 40-inch tow behind plug aerator. Does it work well? It works like a champ. I bought this a couple of months back. We have a lawn that's 3 acres in the front, 1 acre in the back. It's grass. It's really, really hard. The grass and all was planted, say, 23 years ago. It had never been aerated. I have a lot of hard places that only seems like weeds will grow. The grass will never really grow in there good. And I really needed to go ahead and start aerating at least twice a year, maybe 3 times a year, just to really build my lawn back up to what it needs to be. I don't like spending money that I don't need to spend, but I want to make sure I get a product that really works well. This works really well, but there are some issues. The first modification that you can see that I made, of course, is these pieces of wood that I put in. Now, you can use anything you want for a weight, as long as you keep it below what the rated weight is. The rated weight is 140 pounds for this, for the 40-inch. I think the rated weight for the 48-inch is exactly the same. The 40-inch fit my 54-inch zero-turn mower absolutely perfectly. The wheels line up. You can see exactly where you've been. They have the holes in the front and the back, so you can put those elastic cords on there to hold whatever your weight is on, because especially if you're using something like concrete blocks, there's no shock absorbers in this. Every bump you hit, everything's going to bounce, and you'll find your blocks will start to bounce around, especially if you're just using a single block like I am. You can fit 2 blocks in on this, on each side, 2 cement blocks, but I'm using a cement block that's filled with concrete, and I put a little piece of rebar in there for a handle, and I weighed them. They're 62 pounds a piece, so that gives me 124 pounds of weight. Now, you have 3 support places on this. You have each end piece that connects down to the shaft, and you also have a shaft brace right here, or a shaft bracket right here. So my weights will be in the middle of this. It should be pretty much equally distributed. All I had to do was just put in an extra hole for this piece here on the inside. I was already using one of these holes here. Now, even with the heavy blocks that I'm using, the 62 pounds blocks on each side, they can still bounce around. So when I put those in, I will still use an elastic strap hooked into here over the top of it, just in case I really hit a big bump. So I guess the next thing I want to talk about is, how does this really work? Let's take a look. You have a shaft that goes all the way across. The shaft is held in place in 3 places. It goes through a hole on the end plates on each side. Plus, it passes through a hole here on the shaft bracket. And then there's 2 holes, or excuse me, there's 3 holes in there. One is for the handle, so that the handle is in a fixed place on it with respect to the wheels. And then you also have the 2 holes that hold on the wheel bracket itself. Now, everything else on here spins on the shaft. Now, this is a shaft going across. It's not a rod. Shaft is more precise in the outside diameter, and it's also a harder metal, whereas a rod could be just about any kind of metal and approximately the size it's supposed to be. Now, this is a 3/4 inch diameter shaft. It's a very good quality shaft. These spin around, and you see these spin separately. A tiller, if you know, a tiller is driven, and all the tines turn at the same time. This is not motor driven. And also, you don't want everything turning at the same time. When you go to make a turn, that means some on the inside would be digging holes, some on the outside would be digging holes, instead of making the aerated hole that you want. So These will spin here, and this will here. This is a single piece here. The 48-inch, instead of having a single piece, it will have two double pieces in there, so you get that extra set of tines out on each side there to make it a little bit wider. 40-inch worked perfectly for me. For my 54-inch mower, it fits absolutely perfectly, and there was about, I don't know, another $75 or $90, something like that, to get the extra 8 inches. Now, as far as quality, how well this works, even with my hard soil, I'm getting plugs that are 2 knuckles deep on my finger. Now, here's the thing. After doing 4 acres with this, these are still very, very sharp. These are still very, very sharp, but you want to make sure if you go over a driveway or something like that, when you don't want these turning and trying to dig into the driveway, that'll dull them out real quick. And that's the whole idea of having the handle on here and the wheels, so that you can pull the wheels down, and that causes this to be pulled up, so you can drive over driveways or hard places like that. I'll take this wheel off right quick. This is something I was actually rather impressed about. A little bit. There we go. I had it on there pretty tight. The wheels on this one must be something new that they've changed on the design, and I'm very, very much impressed with it. I was, good grief, compared to the quality of everything else, this is outstanding. I just want to show you here. This is a inflated wheel. The instructions don't tell you anything on there, but before you try to use this thing, make sure you inflate it, and you take may pay attention to the maximum pressure. Here it says 30 psi maximum. And the other thing is, this has needle roller bearings on the inside of it. Needle bearings, large for heavy support. I mean, I was just totally impressed with it. They're not greased. There's a grease fitting here. Make sure you grease them when you put it back together. I was totally impressed with this. I was not expecting this type of quality. Now, the shaft that they've got this mounted on is actually a socket head shoulder bolt that's designed for a bearing surface or whatever. These are precision and hardened as well. So I was totally impressed with that. The only thing different that I did from the instructions was I put a washer on this side of it over here to keep it from wobbling just a little bit before I put it back together there. Let me put this back on. Oh, that is there. Put the nut on it. I already talked about the wheels, what I really thought about the wheels, how good they are and all. But now let's talk about the rotating parts and the problems that I had there. To begin with, I was really excited about this. It looks like it's going great. I did about 1.5 acres, and I was making a pass next to a pass that I had just done, and I find this little plastic bearing laying in the pass that I just went by, and it's all mangled up and all. And I'm thinking, uh-oh, I lost one of these. I know there's 8 of them in there because they put one on each end of each rotating part. There's 2, 4, 6, 8. So I'm thinking, how many more have I already lost? Did it damage the shaft? All these kind of questions. So I stop, bring it back down to the shop. I tear it down, and I realize that only one of these is come out, but it's in really, really bad shape. The others aren't in very good shape. There's nothing to keep dirt and sand out of these as this rotates around. That would be something very difficult to do. So I called customer support. She was extremely nice. She reminded me that these have a 4-year warranty, and which is, I think, is absolutely excellent. I went online and I found somebody else had the same kind of problem, and they said this is absolutely a great device if you don't mind at the end of every summer tearing it down and replacing all these bearings that wear out. So I started looking at an alternative. Now, she did immediately send me a total package of eight more to replace all of them at the same time. But I'm thinking, oh gosh, I've only done 1.5 acres. I might need something that's going to stand up a little bit better. So I went to an industrial supply, McMaster Car, went online, and I measured the shaft. I knew the shaft was 3/4 of an inch, and it's a good quality shaft. And I measured the tubes. Now remember, these are tubes. The tubes are fixed on the outside diameter, but the inside diameter is not consistent. Whereas a pipe has a consistent inside diameter, but the outside diameter is not consistent. So these are tubes, and they're welded seam tubes. That means they're smooth on the outside, but if you put your finger down on the inside where the seam is, a lot of times you can feel the weld line right in there. So not something on the inside there is not going to really turn real easily. So I went ahead and I bought the flanged PTFE impregnated bronze bushings like this, 3/4 inch, just like these are. These are 3/4 inch deep. So then when I got them, I took my side grinder and put a metal cutting blade in there, and I cut out a section just like these are. I'll show you a little bit closer, just like these are, about 1/8 of an inch wide. I don't think splitting is a problem at all. I turned my vise sideways. I'm just going to cut them with this. This is just a thin metal cutting blade. And it leaves a little burr on the inside. I just take a little rat tail file, give it a couple strokes. And there, you can see it's split. If you can see the flange on the bushing right here, that's the width that I did, which is about the same as what they have on theirs. Now, it fits down in here. This rotates easy, just like it is. Now, with that being split like that, if I stick my finger in the tube and I feel that little welded bead inside there, I would want to, when I put these in, I'd want to make sure that that lines up with that little welded bead. So that welded bead drops into that little area that I cut out right there. Now, also, if you ever take this apart, then this bronze bushing that you have here, it'll be a lot easier to slide off the shaft, to get off the shaft if it's already split like this. Okay, at this point, I've got 1.5 acres of my front yard. Basically, half my front yard has been aerated. And so I finish up the rest of the 3 acres in the front. And then I start to make a little video to tell you about how much I really appreciate it, sort of an evaluation thing. And in the making the video, I touched one of the teeth here, one of the knives, to show you how sharp they still are. And I noticed the plate wiggled. Plate shouldn't wiggle. These plates are welded to the tube. This tube in the middle, that's an assembly. And then you just bolt the blades to it, or bolt the knives to it. So I pulled it out and I took a close look at it, and there are 2 welds in there. The tube is round. I have a little piece of a weld here, a little piece of a weld here. One of those welds was welded very well to the plate, but not at all to the tube. The tube never even got hot. It never even stuck to the tube. The other side over here was welded very well to the plate, and just one little spot on the tube. So that this plate on the end that holds the knives, it was just barely hanging in there, barely connected to this at all, and it didn't take much at all for it to break loose. But one thing I noticed, this is the one that was broken loose. I don't know if you can see it, but it's not the weld broke. The weld was never properly attached to the tube. The tube is 1/8 inch thick walls, and you can tell they got the plate hot, but they didn't get the tube hot, and that's where the weld broke loose. So what that tells me is they were going a little bit too fast, didn't have time for the tube to heat up, which is a quality control issue. So I think my best option is to cut the weld out of every single one of them and re-weld them. All right, time to call customer service again. Well, I called customer service, got the same lady. She actually remembered talking to me earlier, and explained what my problem was. I explained to her that I'd seen another video where a man was complaining about the welds breaking loose, and he was re-welding his. And she said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll send you replacement parts, but she said, I'd like for you to go ahead, take the ones you have if you know how to weld, or if you know somebody that does weld, go ahead and weld them up, and just keep the parts for spares. She sent me 2 more, and I looked at them. The weld quality was exactly the same as the ones that came from in the box. So my only thing that I could think of was they ordered 100,000 of these things at one time from somebody probably in Asia. They didn't realize that they had a problem until customers started complaining about the welds breaking loose on there. So I went ahead, I took the new ones that she sent me. She sent me 2 like this. I re-welded them completely, and I took all this apart, of course, and I re-welded every one of these. So now, 3 acres done, taking this apart twice and put it back together, I think now I've got something that's actually going to last a long, long time. I'm very pleased with the performance, how it works. This part will never wear out. I'm not worried about the bronze bushings wearing out over here. The knives are staying sharp. I'm not worried about the plates, the welding coming loose on them, because I've re-welded every one of them all the way around to myself. The only last place that you could have anywhere would be on these little plastic spacers. Now, if you're going in a straight line all the time, I don't think there's a reason for these plastic spacers to wear out. But if you're doing a lot of turns and curves, then you could be putting a little pressure on those to cause them to start to wear. Now, there was one more problem that I saw a person complaining about. He was complaining about the handle jumping out. Well, if you look at the alignment of the handle, the way that the handle is, it will barely fit into the groove the way it lines up. Now, what causes the alignment on there is the spacing that you have on each end to the end plates, but still that causes this to be a little bit offset. So what I did is I took mine, and I'm just above the bolts, I went ahead, I heated it up, and I bent it just a little bit, because I don't want to be crossing over a driveway, for example, have my handle pop out, and all of a sudden my knives go straight down onto the concrete and tears up the ends of all my knives, or possibly even, if I had customers, hurt the customer's driveway, for example. So I don't want that to happen. Here I want to bend the handle just a little bit, but I want to do it right above the bolt holes right here, because I want it to lean closer to the catch, so that, because the problem I've seen other people post on YouTube about it not staying in the catch when you're trying to move from one place to another. Oh, look at there. That's nice and square. Tighten it down. Now I want to heat it right here just above the top of the vise, because I want to bend it this way just a little bit so that handle stays over in the catch area. All right, I did get a little bend in it right there. Hopefully it's not too much, but it should be in there nice and snug now for sure against that, so I should not have to use bungee cords like I've seen other people do. I think in their instructions they could have assembled it a little bit different than what they did. You've noticed I've got everything assembled except for the handle, and now I'm going to go ahead and put the blades on. I'll put the handle on last. Now here's something else about the handle. They tell you to use a 1 1/4 inch bolt. But you don't have enough space to get the 1 1/4 inch bolt in there, because you can't clear it on the inside bolt. This is a handy tool, I tell you what, for doing stuff like this. It's hard to beat. Let's look at a little problem they've got here. This is the bolt that's supposed to be going through this. You can see it's 1 1/4 inch long, and you see how much it pokes out up here at the top. There's supposed to be 2 of them, one here and one here, or from that angle you're at, one here and one here, because this isn't lined up right now. But the bolts have to go through from this way according to the drawings. But if you take it and put the bolt through this direction, and you think, oh, I've got it made, but when you put the nut on there and you tighten it up, you realize that this pokes out so far, it hits the blade and will not allow the blade to rotate. So you've got a dilemma. The option that I'm using, the section that I've been skipping, which is number 10, I'm going to take one of these 1 inch bolts that go to number 10, and I'm going to swap it with one of the 1 1/4s. Now when I put it in there, that means my nylon locking is just going to barely fit in there, but if I make it good and tight, the nylon locking will fit on there real well. So I have to put this through here first, then I have to bring it back. Careful now, because all this stuff can get you. So I'll put it in here. See, right now I don't even have the clearance to put it through there. I have to put it through the hole a little bit first. Finally I got it through there. Took some finagling. Now I can put the nut on here. Now this is a shady area. here because I think it's a little bit easier to actually see how well it works. Maybe you can see this. You see how well it works. See all those where the teeth came through? That's pretty well. It makes a pretty deep plug. That's that deep. Broke that plug, but that's what the plugs look like. But I can tell you what I have now, I'm very pleased with. This is my weights sitting in the back. And right now it's raised up, and you can see how well my handle is in the raised slot. You can see I've got it set a little bit below my trailer hitch there. That's a regular trailer hitch for mounting on lawnmowers and golf carts and stuff. Like $7-8 from Amazon. But you can see I've got it set on the lower side below it. The reason was I want that to try to be a little bit more level. That's all.